story following Governor Sarah Palin from Alaska. The state ethics investigation continues over her firing of a state official. We've just gotten news of a development on that front. NBC's Savannah Guthrie is up north in Wasilla, Alaska with the latest. Savannah?
Hi, David. Well, we've heard now from the Senate and House Judiciary Committees, which are looking into this matter of whether or not this trooper that used to be married to Sarah Palin's sister was fired, or excuse me, wasn't fired, but whether his boss was fired because he refused to fire the trooper. It's a twisted, tangled tale, and there's a state investigator looking into it. Now, the report on this was supposed to be issued on October 31st. That's the Friday before Election Day. And, of course, that date was set long before Sarah Palin was part of the Republican ticket. In any event, the committee now says it will move up the date of when it will issue its final report to October 10th, so 3 weeks earlier. And the reason the committee says it's doing this is to avoid the appearance of a so-called October surprise. They're trying to, they say, depoliticize this and make it clear that they're not trying to issue the release essentially on the eve of Election Day. The other development is that this committee will now issue subpoenas for witnesses. The committee says that 7 witnesses who had previously agreed to testify voluntarily have now said they won't, thereby necessitating subpoenas. And so this committee will meet in a special session next Friday, September 12th, and plans to issue subpoenas for 7 witnesses. Now, the McCain advisors think this whole investigation has become very political. They think this is the basic definition of a political investigation. They say the lead Democrat on this committee is out there making statements to the press that the committee is leaking investigation material like emails and so forth. So they also think that it's no mistake that this press release announcing this earlier date and the subpoenas is coming the very morning after McCain delivered his acceptance speech. They think this is got politics written all over it. David?
Well, Savannah, it is interesting that the press release, which I've just been handed, has a Republican from Alaska supporting the move to get the investigation done ahead of schedule. But in any case, boil it all down for us. Never mind sort of the intricacies of who was fired. The thrust of this investigation, correct me if I'm wrong, is did Sarah Palin abuse the power of her office by firing the person in charge of the state police? Is that it?
Yeah, that's the bottom line. This guy, Walt Monaghan, was the commissioner of public safety, so he oversaw the troopers. Sarah Palin's family had long-standing problems with this trooper, Mike Wooten. They claimed that he made threats against their father, for example, and violated various rules and regulations. And so there were a series of contacts that were made to the troop, either Walt Monaghan, who's the head of the troopers, and other people in the state trooper organization. The question, of course, is did Sarah Palin abuse her office by...
Okay, well, we're losing our picture there from Savannah Guthrie, but one other thing that Savannah had reported earlier, which is worth noting, and that is the committee has said that it'll take its sort of interview from Sarah Palin and that it can be over the phone, that she does not have to return to Alaska, and that the lead investigator will either meet Palin on the campaign trail or talk to her over the phone to get the information from Sarah Palin. And again, earlier this summer, Sarah Palin said that she welcomed the investigation and urged people to go ahead and hold her accountable. She has said, she has insisted that she did nothing wrong.
Sarah Palin, John McCain's choice for vice president, is in the middle of an ethics probe in her home state of Alaska. And today, new details emerging. NBC's Savannah Guthrie has more now from Wasilla. So, Savannah, what do you have for us about the investigation?
Well, right now we're awaiting a press release from the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which is handling this investigation into whether Sarah Palin and or her staff pressured the state troopers to fire her former brother-in-law, who the governor claims was harassing her family. We're expecting this press release, and what we know it will say is that the date of the release of its final report is being moved up. Now, it was supposed to be released on October 31st, which is, of course, the Friday before Election Day. That date was set long before Sarah Palin was part of the Republican ticket. Well, now they are going to move it up in time, so it'll be released a little bit earlier. And they say the reason for that is because they want to sort of depoliticize this. They don't want it to come out so close to Election Day. So they say they're doing it out of a sense of fairness. I can tell you McCain advisors don't see it that way. They think this press release and the attention that it draws to this investigation, the timing of it this morning, the day after McCain had his acceptance speech in St. Paul, is extremely suspicious. They think this has become a very political investigation with leaks and with the top Democrat on this committee talking to reporters, making comments in the press. They think it's become very political. In fact, they're trying to move the whole jurisdiction of this to the State Personnel Board. They moved to do that this week. And so we're going to hear more about it. The other thing, Contessa, I'm not sure if we will hear it in this press release, but there's a possibility now that this Judiciary Committee will issue subpoenas to get some of the witness testimony. Earlier in the investigation, witnesses apparently were cooperating voluntarily, no need for subpoenas. Now some of the key witnesses have said they won't talk without a subpoena, so we may hear about the committee getting together and issuing subpoenas basically to force these witnesses to give their testimony. Contessa?
Okay. Savannah, thank you. And we want to know what you think. What do you feel McCain's speech accomplished the most?
Millions of Americans tuned in to watch Alaska Governor Sarah Palin's acceptance speech at the GOP National Convention Wednesday night. And while it was a big TV ratings hit, how accurate were the claims she made in her speech? Deborah Farrick does some checking.
You know, they say the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? Lipstick.
Putting Democrats on notice, Sarah Palin fired up Republicans, listing what she's done and why she's qualified to be vice president. But is it all true?
I stood up to the special interests and the lobbyists.
Well, not entirely. Palin was the first Wasilla mayor to hire a Washington lobbyist, securing $11 million in special funding for the town.
And championed reform to end the abuses of earmark spending by Congress.
Not true. In her 2 years as governor, Palin has asked Congress for $453 million for so-called earmarks, including $1 million for rockfish research. That famous $398 million bridge to nowhere?
I told the Congress, thanks but no thanks.
In fact, Alaska got that money, but it was used for other projects. Stephen Ellis is with an advocacy group that tracks public spending.
Certainly she has got Wasilla into the earmarks game. She worked the system and was able to bring home earmarks, and then certainly has been part of the earmark system in Alaska. And so it's just something that is interesting to juxtapose with Senator McCain's position, which has been stalwart, no earmarks ever.
On cleaning up state government.
And today that ethics reform is the law.
That's true. She signed it last year.
I have protected the taxpayers by vetoing wasteful spending, nearly $500 million in vetoes.
Also true. She vetoed $500 million, but the operating budget at $6.6 billion continues to grow at 10% a year. On the natural gas pipeline,
I fought to bring about the largest private sector infrastructure project in North American history. And when that deal was struck, we began a nearly $40 billion natural gas pipeline to help lead America to energy independence.
Yes and no. The pipeline project was approved by Alaska lawmakers, but the company still has to do environmental impact reports, deal with Aboriginal issues, and get federal approval before any building can start. And most estimates on the pipeline are that it will cost less than $40 billion. The earliest the pipeline could be up and running is in 10 years. Governor Palin delivered her speech with conviction, a sense of what you see is what you get. But after checking budget records and other documents and speaking to government officials and Alaska lawmakers, some of the claims are a bit of a stretch.
So don't be fooled. These are the folks who've been in charge. John McCain's party, with the help of John McCain, has been in charge. Now, I know the governor of Alaska's been, saying she's changed, and that's great. She's a skillful politician, but, when you've been taking all these earmarks when it's convenient, and then suddenly you're the champion anti-earmark person, that's not change. Come on.